Support for this podcast comes from the Central Valley Journalism Collaborative, connecting communities with the resources, infrastructure, and networks to ensure a vibrant local free press.
From KVPR in Fresno, this is Central Valley Daily. It's Tuesday, September 9th. I'm Elizabeth Arkalian. Every year, the summertime migration patterns of monarch butterflies bring them through our region.
And so the monarchs are coming across the Central Valley. So if you have a garden, or if you go to a park or one of our nice river parks, you will see monarchs migrating.
But recently, the monarch population has been dwindling. We will learn more about why in just a few minutes. But first, these headlines. The Garnet Fire burning in the Sierra National Forest east of Fresno continues to grow, sparking more evacuation warnings and orders on Monday and over the weekend. The fire crossed Dinky Creek and is threatening a nearby campground. The nearby McKinley Grove of giant sequoias is also at risk. During a weekend briefing, CAL FIRE Section Chief Gino DeGraffenried had a message for Shaver Lake and Toll House.
We recognize that you've been terrorized by fire in the past, and this is a very uncomfortable situation.
But rest assured, he said, firefighters have built multiple fire lines to protect residents. Plus, more resources are being brought in for support.
Those resources include fire engines, bulldozers, crews, very large air tankers. It's just a beginning of what is on its way.
The fire has now burned more than 54,000 acres. Yosemite National Park is finishing up one of its busiest summers. Park officials say nearly 3 million people visited through August. That's a 7% jump from last year. If this growth continues, 2025 could finish among the park's top 3 busiest years on record. For the first time since 2019, all 13 campgrounds were open, including the newly renovated Tuolumne Meadows. All this is despite staffing cuts to national parks earlier this year. A CSU Bakersfield basketball coach is facing criminal charges. Assistant coach Kevin Mays made his first appearance in Kern County Superior Court on Monday. Mays is facing multiple felony charges related to pimping and possession of guns and illegal drugs. He was arrested earlier this month. Bakersfield Assemblyman Stan Ellis called on California's state agencies on Monday to step up oil and gas production in Kern County, specifically by issuing more permits for petroleum production. Ellis argues that looming closures of oil refineries in Los Angeles and the Bay Area will result in a shortage of in-state oil that could significantly jack up gas prices.
But we have 6 to 12 months to act, and we better act now or we're going to be out of business.
Ellis theorizes that gas could cost up to $10 a gallon with a heavier reliance on out-of-state oil. Newsom earlier this summer did commit to boosting in-state oil production, though he's not yet announced a legislative solution.
Support for Central Valley Daily comes from Fresno Mazda, part of the Prieto Automotive family, leading the industry in the IIHS 2025 Top Safety Pick Awards, helping move Mazda closer to the goal of eliminating traffic fatalities. More information and the Mazda digital showroom available at myfresnomazda.com.
And now to our main story. The iconic black and orange monarch butterfly is special to Californians. Each year, the butterflies migrate along the coastline, seeking mild temperatures to overwinter. The monarchs are also present here in the valley and in the foothills, feeding and laying eggs. But if it's been a while since you've seen a monarch butterfly, you're not alone. For the last 26 years, a coordinated Western monarch count has endeavored to measure butterfly sightings in the state. And their data shows that the butterfly population has dwindled tremendously. Randy Widera is with the California State Parks Foundation, and it turns out that state parks play a huge role in managing the land where butterflies feed and live. The foundation is now asking Californians to help share when and where they see butterflies to help better track them. Before Randy tells us more about that effort, he starts our conversation explaining the butterfly's migration patterns.
Basically, the current status is they're in full migration routes now. They overwinter along the California coast, up starting from up in Marin and Bolinas, all the way down to actually Baja California. There's been a couple of spots. And so right now they're migrating from Washington, Oregon, the Sierra foothills, and they're coming in towards the coast. And they come to overwinter because they don't survive well where there's a lot of frost. And the coastal climates are really nice in the wintertime because it's not too cold.
Okay. And we're here in the Central Valley of California. Could we see monarch butterflies here?
Absolutely. There are some beautiful stands of milkweed up in the Sierra foothills. And so the monarchs are coming across the Central Valley. So if you have a garden or if you go to a park or one of our nice river parks, you will see monarchs migrating and heading out west.
So I will get back to tracking the butterflies in a moment, but one thing I'm curious about, you mentioned this migration pattern and that they overwinter along the coast. During other times of year, we're here in September, where else are these butterflies living and what sort of their process year round?
Sure. So they have a fascinating life cycle because in one year they'll go through 5 generations. So the
Wow.
monarchs that will leave here in the early spring will sort of fly out and they find milkweed. And they will lay eggs, and those monarchs will die. And then the next generation will then fly out, eat the milkweed, grow, go through their whole life cycle, become an adult. They'll fly out, and then a third generation, and then a fourth generation. And as they're doing that, they're expanding all across the Western United States. Then, sometime in the fall, like now, they suppress their adult hormones, the monarch butterfly does. And so they stay in a juvenile state. And so that generation will live the longest. And they're the ones that will start flying towards the coast to
Okay.
overwinter. And that's a longer lived generation that overwinters.
Now, we have to talk about the decline in the monarch butterfly population, though. So give us a kind of an overview of where things are at in terms of population right now compared to maybe historically where they've been.
Yeah, that's the one thing for us right now is the most concerning message to get out is that it's a precipitous decline. Last year, we had just over 9,000 monarchs overwintering along the coast. And that from when we began 29 years ago, when we had millions of monarchs, and you'd go to a grove and you would see tens of thousands at natural bridges, I would always see 200,000, 190,000 butterflies hanging from the trees. Now, when we go to the monarch groves, the few that we do see, there'll be smaller clusters of 100, maybe 1,000 or 3,000. It's been a precipitous drop, especially in the last 5 to 10 years. And I can talk a little bit about the factors that we think are.
Yeah, I mean, that's really kind of heartbreaking to hear
Mhm.
9,000. I mean, that's just a fraction of historically what we've had in California. And I think many of us can think about field trips over to the Central Coast and, maybe
Mhm.
going to Pacific Grove and seeing those monarch sanctuary there. So, yes, what is causing the decline or what's the hypothesis?
So we do know climate change is a factor because the extreme heat. We are experiencing hotter days. And those hotter days are having an effect on the milkweed population and on the nectar sources.
Mm.
And in general, the general robustness, because monarchs are everywhere in California. So just think about how we as humans are experiencing hotter days. We're seeing severe drought. And when those droughts happen, we have less water sources. Less water sources means less milkweed. So those factors definitely are part of it. We also know that the use of pesticides can disrupt the monarch life cycle. And we also see that things like wildfires, when we had the big wildfires up in the north of California, that can disrupt their migration. And in general, the loss of habitat.
So, California Biodiversity Day was technically this past Saturday, but the California State Parks Foundation is celebrating this all week. One of the things that you all are doing is asking the public to help observe and report sightings of western monarch butterflies, as you mentioned. So, if people are interested in participating, how do they go about that?
Yes, you can be a citizen scientist with your smartphone is by downloading the iNaturalist app. In the iNaturalist app, it's a very easy app to do in terms of you open up the app and you take photos of the world around you. And if you see a monarch nectarine in your garden, if you see one migrating, to take a picture of it, and then you record it on iNaturalist, and that adds your record to the records of all the hundreds and thousands of people who are doing this across California, and you create this map of where the monarchs are right now. So what's so important about that is that they're in migration. So your information, your observations will help us know. To your initial question about being in the Central Valley, they're there. We need those records so we know where they are, where they're migrating through the Central Valley, and how they're in what directions they're going. And that app will help record that information.
Okay. And just to get back real quick to the state of the monarch butterfly population, is there anything that we can do here in California to try to help this population bounce back? And is there hope that we might see it thriving again eventually?
Well, that's the hope. And, when collective action, when we come together, citizens to make things happen, we can do good things. And that's what we're hoping. And that's what we're working towards. So the things that everybody can do is, number one, is to plant native or even non-native plants in your yard that have nectar sources for the monarchs as well as all other pollinators. And these nectarine plants not only attract the butterflies to your backyard, but they really give them the fuel they need to do, especially now when they're migrating. In addition, and if anywhere in the Central Valley, if you can plant milkweed, milkweed will attract the monarchs, and it will be where they can lay their eggs, and then the next generation of monarchs can go on. So milkweed is critical, especially in the Central Valley locations. There are also lots of organizations that do habitat restoration in your local parks. Our organization, California State Parks Foundation, works across California to lead volunteer programs and projects. But being a volunteer and helping with habitat restoration in your local parks also helps. Reducing the use of pesticides helps. And being an advocate for monarchs and helping to educate others about the value and about the importance to have this. Because as maybe you've read, that there's a 95% chance that by the year 2080 that they will go extinct if we're on the current trajectory. So we need to start going to action now.
Randy Widera with the California State Parks Foundation. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And that is today's show. And guess what? We just turned 1. Today marks 1 year since we launched the Central Valley Daily podcast. We wanted to take time to thank all of you listeners for your support throughout the past year. We could not have done it without you. And we also wanted to thank all the current and former KVPR staff members who helped make the podcast possible. That includes Alex Burke, Joe Moore, Crescencio Rodriguez Delgado, Carrie Klein, Rachel Livenall, Samantha Rangel, Dawn Weaver, Sarith Hawk, Justin Sacher, Christina Richardson, Esther Quintanilla, Joshua Yeager, Israel Cardona Hernandez, Joe Garcia, John English, Caitlin Jensen, Patty Ramirez, and David Aus. Every single one of them has helped make this podcast possible. And you can see a photo of most of the current Central Valley Daily team on our social media channels. Just search kvpr.news on Instagram and give us a follow if you haven't already. We are looking forward to covering more local issues for you in the year to come. Today's episode was produced by Jonathan Linden and KVPR with support from the Central Valley Journalism Collaborative. I'm Elizabeth Arkalian. You can find the latest local news anytime at kvpr.org.
It's rare to find a podcast that can actually change your life. But when the show's called Life Kit, that's kind of the whole point. I'm Marielle Segarra. 3 times a week on the Life Kit podcast, we guide you through a topic we could all use help with, from personal development to healthy living to managing your dinero, with takeaways so you can start living what you learn right away. Escucha el Life Kit podcast from NPR.